Good morning. Rise in freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. It's just you and me and us. We're all here Thursday. We're so close. Getting to the weekend. Lots of exciting things to be looking forward to, like sleeping in on Saturday. Yes. Sleeping in on Sunday. Wait, did I hit the wrong button there? I was supposed to hit the Greta Thunberg. Gosh darn it. It's too early.
How dare you?
How dare you sleep in on Sundays? Yes. For all of us secular folks, Sunday is another day we get to sleep in. You'll pay for it in hell, AP. The Wake Up America show brought to you in part by viewers and listeners like you clicking that like button. And if you end up enjoying the content today, don't forget to follow as well. Before you leave today, come back here and join us for the regular schedule every Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. All right, let's get this show on the road. George Clooney tells Joe Biden to step down. Is this proof that the Jews control Hollywood and therefore the president? Wait a minute. Is George Clooney Jewish? Can we get a Jew check? Somebody check me up. Clean up on aisle 4. Yeah, George Clooney held a Hollywood fundraiser for Joe Biden 3 weeks ago, raised millions of dollars for Joe Biden, and then turned around and told everyone that they need to dump him. Think about all those people that he raised the millions of dollars from. It's like, gotcha, suckers. Gotcha, suckers. The worst Batman in the history of Batmans. Of course, the best was Michael Keaton, and I won't entertain any other discussions about that. We're going to hear from the Missouri Secretary of State, Jay Ashcroft, who will be joining us live and in studio today. He's running for governor. I have an open invitation for all the governor candidates. We've had Bill Eigel on. We've had Jay Ashcroft on. We need to get Mike Kehoe on, but I don't know if he will come on because I remember when I was the Mid-Missouri radio host on KWOS here in Mid-Missouri, and he wouldn't come on when I was on. So I don't know if that has changed. Maybe now that he's running for office again, he might want to come in and have a conversation with me. That would be great. That being said, it is an open invitation for the candidates, people who are running for office, who want to come on the show, specifically in Missouri. Other states, you're going to have to figure that stuff out yourself. Okay, well, too bad. I'm broadcasting from Jefferson City, Missouri, so it be what it be. Let's see. Jay Ashcroft's going to come on at 7:30 a.m. Why? To rebut accusations that he is not an engineer because he doesn't have a government license. Yes. Oh, yes. Big op-ed yesterday in the Missouri Times, whose building I'm in right now, accusing him of stolen engineer valor, essentially. So because Jay is going around saying that he's an engineer as a governor, he's going to solve problems like an engineer does, but he didn't get the government certification. He didn't get the government kiss of approval. So
how dare you?
So he is apparently not an engineer, according to an engineer who wrote the article that is, well, a donor to Mike Kehoe's campaign. You know how this stuff is. You know how it is. Anyways, Jay lives here in Jefferson City, and he's never been afraid to come on here and answer tough questions. So we'll talk to him live and in person at 7:30, 20 minutes from now. That'll be good. At 8 o'clock, it's Thirsty Thursday, which means the lovely ladies of liberty. Camelia Peterson joins us at 8 a.m. She's going to talk to us a little bit about Biden's cognitive decline. That'll be fun. And then Peniella Dentsack at 8:30 a.m. Central Time. We're going to have Peniella on here today to talk about the Duke University Medical School saying that being punctual and on time is a sign of white supremacy. Yes. Thankfully, the Wake Up America show did not start on time, which means I'm not a Nazi. Ordinarily, though, if there is something that I am a Nazi about, it is being on time. So that is one of my things whenever there's an appointment or an event. And as you can see, the Wake Up America show, don't we normally start on time? I think we do, yes. We do. Normally, right? We start the stream at least at 7 a.m. I may not be starting here myself at 7 a.m., but I've got a million billion clips, of course. everything that's happening in the news. There's a million billion things going on. John M. Knox says, how could anyone not like AP or want to go on the Wake Up America show? Yes, exactly. Thank you. We appreciate that, John Knox. F the government and their stupid licenses, says Urs Mommy, who we will miss very much. GF Johnson joining us live. Better late than never. Got a quiet morning on vacation to tune in live. Well, we're glad to have you here, GF Johnson. I was just explaining how if you were a med student at Duke University, that if you showed up on time, that would be a sign that you are a white supremacist. Yes. If during our breaks, when I'm bringing guests onto the show and scrambling because I don't have a staff, and you would like to watch the mini documentaries that I produce every single day for this show instead of commercials, it's way more fun. Don't forget to get in those Rumble rants early and often. And if we raise $60 by the end of the show, then you'll be able to watch our bonus mini documentary. This week, we're talking about Supreme Court decisions that changed history. And this week, we've already talked about Korematsu, Dred Scott, and I already forgot what yesterday's was. I got Biden brain this week. Hygiene is already listed as white supremacy, says Courtney Conover. Oops. Yes, it is. And let's see, what else? We've got Daniela. I think I've introduced everything, which means that it's time for clips. Here's Nancy Pelosi losing her cool with a reporter asking about Joe Biden's mental decline.
That him waiting so long to make this decision could harm the party?
Any comments in the hallway about the fate of our nation. Okay?
Are you concerned whether or not he can win in November?
I think he can win.
Do you believe he should run for re-election?
I'm not speaking English to you. I'm not going to be making.
Whoa, that was racist. How dare you? Nancy Pelosi to a young black woman. Am I speaking English? Like, what are you trying to say here, Nancy? You think that all black people only speak Ebonics? Dang, look at her. Now that right there, that is confirmed white supremacy. Supreme. Check out the look on Jake Tapper's face after he said that the Biden campaign is suggesting Joe Biden has more stamina than George Clooney.
And in response to those comments from George Clooney, Jake, a campaign official who attended that Los Angeles fundraiser tells me that George Clooney left 3 hours before the president. So clearly the gloves are off. Jake?
But what does that mean that George Clooney left 3 hours? What's the point?
The point of that is to suggest that Biden's stamina is better than Clooney's, and Clooney didn't have, eyes on the entire event. That's the response to the Clooney op-ed.
Okay. Kayla Tashi, thanks so much. Appreciate it. Karen Finney.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd love to talk about that.
I will. I know this is your favorite topic. Look, it just seems like every day is going to be like this with people saying he should drop out, people that are Democratic Party stalwarts. George Clooney gets nothing out of this. What does he gain? The only reason to do this is because he feels like he needs to convey this.
Yeah.
How does this end?
So let's just stipulate to the facts that this is not good. This is bad. Let's just say the obvious, right?
Okay, thanks.
This is not good. This is bad. You'll love to see it. So I just love this clip of Peter Doocy from yesterday. I'll play it again a little bit later. Where's the next clip? I had another good one. Oh yeah, this is it. The search is over. This is the greatest CNN segment in history. Enjoy. God, it's juicy. When CNN's doing actual journalism, it's like I got my popcorn out. And it's like I got my Founding Flavors coffee from the Four Liberties shop. I'm like, shh, everybody, you guys ready? Watch this. This is so juicy. It's so delicious. Watch.
In reality, 72% of voters say that they believe President Biden is too old. That's according to CNN's most recent polling. Voters have been saying this for quite a long time. The reality is that the Democratic elites are mostly late to acknowledge these age and ability issues compared to the rest of the public. The elites have been forced to reckon with it after the debate just 11 days ago.
Look at my career. I've not had many of those nights. It was a terrible night. And I really regret it happened. But the fact of the matter is, How can you assure you're going to be on faith that can intervene on your way to go to, work tomorrow? Age wasn't, the idea I'm too old.
Bro. I mean, and that's the Morning Joe he's talking to right now, Mika Brzezinski and Joe Scarborough, and they're doing everything they can to try and cover for Biden. But I got to hear this one more time. Thank you, by the way, to one of our friends who went to forlibertyshop.com and made a purchase this morning to help unlock the bonus content. Yeah. Actually, wait a minute. Oh, that wasn't someone to unlock the bonus content this morning. It doesn't matter. Don't get mad at me. Sorry, doesn't count. So now that we've set up our accounts with other businesses, we just locked in our second bit of contract with a company to take over their merch for them. Now we're getting all of these sales from like the other businesses and stuff like that, but it doesn't count. It only counts if the Wake Up America show viewers are buying during the show. Sorry. Don't get mad. All we got to do is raise $60. Listen, if we're not doing that, then I mean, what's the point of living if you can't make $60 a day? You know what I mean? I got a baby to feed coming up here in 2 weeks. Let's continue.
Intervene on your way to go to, work tomorrow. Age wasn't, the idea I'm too old.
The fact of the matter is, how can you assure you're going to be out on your way to go, work tomorrow? Age wasn't, the idea that I'm too old. Keep in mind, that soundbite is supposed to be reassuring to those Democratic supporters who have gone wobbly.
Did you ever watch the debate afterwards?
I don't think I did, no.
He doesn't think he did. He called into a couple of black radio stations where he said, among other things, this.
By the way, I'm proud to be, as I said, the first vice president, first black woman, serve with a black president. I'm proud of the first black woman in the Supreme Court. There's just so much that we can do because together there's nothing. Look, this is the United States of America.
He's proud to be the first black woman? Not coherent. And even then, we later found out from the radio host that the Biden campaign had given her a list of questions to ask President Biden. That is a huge no-no in journalism, and the host was fired for it. But it remains quite telling that in the Biden campaign's efforts to show that the president has not missed a step, his campaign felt the need to feed questions to the hosts.
Okay, so what is more shocking to you? Let me ask you this real quick. Which is more shocking to you? That the president of the United States is allowed to continue while operating in this capacity, or that CNN is doing this kind of journalism? I know. And yes, it's funny. Yeah, it is funny, but I mean, it's also sad and kind of terrifying. It's terrifying that CNN is doing journalism in this way because things are very bad if that's the situation. Because for a while you could kind of write it off. I mean, listen, if you're watching the Wake Up America show regularly for the last year or so, almost every day we are playing clips here on the show of the president in Brussels, the president in Prague, the president wherever he is, having verbal moments, having gaffes, stumbling, falling down, falling off his bicycle, like having problems speaking, saying stupid things that sound as if someone is in a state of cognitive decline. We've been doing that, and you could write it off and just say, oh, well, Austin just doesn't like Joe Biden. It's a cheap fake like they've been trying to do. But now that you see CNN like this, it's kind of like, after a while, you do start any amount of gaslighting. And trust me, we're all sort of prone to gaslighting. Some of us are just more immune to it than others. But every once in a while, I think any normal person kind of like after a while kind of goes, am I crazy? Like maybe there is something here, right? We don't see something that's behind the curtain. Well, I mean, any logical person would ask that kind of a question to ensure that they're not confirming their biases, right? Because it's the wise man who is unsure and a fool who is full of certainty, right? I screwed up that one. There's a Bidenism for you, but you get the point. I'm the first black woman Wake Up America show host, first black woman most. But you look over your shoulder, you question yourself, and you start to ask, is it really the way that we have been seeing it, right? Because it's always good to sort of check your biases, make sure you're not always just confirming them. Well, guess what? We were right. And now that we see that the left is doing this kind of reporting, we realize how dangerous a situation that we are in. Is this good for the Republicans electorally? Probably. Is this bad for the country at this point in time? Yes. And in the end, we don't know if Joe Biden is going to win. They may cheat. They may try and steal the election. We may be in a situation where Joe Biden manages to eke his way through another election, wins the election, and he may last for another year, 2 years like this. And then we're subjected to Kamala Harris, and then she gets to serve another 2 terms after that. We may have 10 years of rule by Kamala Harris.
No,
yeah.
God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
Willis88 says that this isn't them doing journalism, it's them conducting a coup. Yeah, I'm sympathetic to those claims as well.
For a call-in radio interview. And the president still, even then, failed to deliver in many of his answers. Now, many elected Democrats are expressing concern about this answer, too, although it was quite coherent. George Stephanopoulos asking him how he would feel if he ultimately loses to Donald Trump, which polls have suggested he will.
I feel as long as I gave it my all and I did the goodest job as I know I can do, that's what this is about.
As long as he gave it his all and did the goodest job he could do.
Goodest job. And I read a report that said that they tried to get them to edit out the part where Joe Biden says goodest.
That's what it's all about. Is it?
Oh, that is harsh stuff. The president grabbed a microphone yesterday. It looked like the Democrats were reluctant to give it to him to say this.
I promised I was going to have a candidate that looked like America. And it does. More minorities, more women, more labor. I'm serious. Think about it. That's who we are. That's why we're strong. We're diverse. We're strong. We got to stop looking at it like it's a problem. It's an asset.
Yeah, Joe Biden randomly grabs the mic and starts rambling about DEI as a feed abruptly cuts and reporters are herded out of the room. Listen to him when he starts rambling.
I promised I was going to have a candidate that looked like America. And it does.
I mean, Joe Biden is in deep trouble, and so are we all. Today, Joe Biden is supposed to hold what they call a big boy press conference, which means he'll be taking more than 2 scripted questions.
When you look at the numbers, he's done 36 news conferences to date since he's been in office. That's not as many as his predecessors had done. Trump had done 64 by this point, Obama 72, Bush 82. But he is going to be speaking tomorrow. Yeah. How high do you think the stakes are for that press conference tomorrow?
Look, I don't think we should set the stakes too high. I think we should be looking at how he's doing at the event today with the AFL-CIO, speaking to, obviously, a supportive group. They endorsed him, but unscripted, no teleprompters. I hope he does well. I expect he'll do well in the press conference tomorrow.
Yeah, well, the Biden campaign co-chair, Chris Coons, still on that. That's who that is, saying that Biden isn't getting the credit for how well he's doing.
He had a great campaign rally in North Carolina right after the debate. He gave a great speech at the Mount Airy Church in Philadelphia last Sunday. He's not getting the recognition and credit for how well he is doing out on the stump. He had a great campaign.
Yeah, and they're continuing. This is his campaign co-chair. This is them blaming the president's problems on his stutter.
What are you telling him about what you're hearing from your fellow senators?
That a lot of my colleagues have expressed concerns that they needed to see him go out and campaign, do a long-form interview, do an unstructured press conference. But I have said to my colleagues, remember who Joe Biden is. We can't set a bar so high that who Joe Biden's been for 30 years can't clear it. He's always had a slight stutter.
What are you?
We can't set the bar too high for the president of the United States. Here's Joe Biden reading from a script yesterday.
The allies in this room not only share a common language, don't share a common language. We do not share a common border, but we are neighbors. We're neighbors.
What the hell is he's reading off a script? What is he saying?
The allies in this room not only share a common language, don't share a common language, we do not share a common border, but we are neighbors. We're neighbors. The allies in this
This is scary stuff, and this is the situation that we're in. Meanwhile, Democrats apparently trying to stop a bill that would prevent illegal immigrants from voting. Yesterday's Representative Jennifer McClellan of Virginia says that essentially this is like a poll tax.
This bill is essentially a poll tax because I am not aware of a single proof of citizenship document that does not cost an individual money to get it, unless we are requiring every state to provide one for free, and then it's an unfunded mandate. This is the 2024 version of the Jim Crow poll tax, and we should vote against it.
Jeez, well, that's going to be a good question for Jay Ashcroft when he arrives, because he, as a Secretary of State, will be in charge of the vote this fall. Did you guys see this hearing yesterday? Ben Shapiro did a little bit of a battle of wits back and forth with Eric Swalwell. This was the funniest thing that happened yesterday. Watch this.
Mr. Shapiro, thank you for joining us today. I think it is important that you're here as one of the leading conservative voices in the country. And the country has, in the last couple of weeks, talked a lot about and Googled Project 2025. It's one of the most Googled search terms right now. And you're not going to get any censorship from me. So I just wanted to know, from your perspective, I think it would help us understand, on just like a scale of 0 to 100%, how much do you support Project 2025?
I think, like President Trump, I haven't looked all that deeply at Project 2025, but it seems that Democrats on this committee, sort of like Peter Pan and Tinkerbell, if they say Project 2025 enough, their presidential candidate becomes alive again.
And so...
Oh my God, Ben, see? I really dig Ben Shapiro. I know he made some mistakes during the coronavirus pandemic. Many people did, but man, him up there with John Kennedy.
It's going to be 10 years from now.
Right. So our projection is then over $50 trillion or over 122% of GDP.
Yeah. Well, damn, looks to me like we better do something.
I love the way he talks.
I mean, we can sit here and debate the tax cuts and you talk about the tax cuts don't work. I don't know how you know that, because the pandemic skewed all economic results. But we better do something, huh? Do you think we can sustain the spending?
Did he just call him hun? That guy is funny. You got to love our friends down in Louisiana.
No, the risks are mounting.
No. That's a PhD no right there. No, he had to go to college for 25 years to get that kind of a list.
With higher interest payments and higher debt. And that's, as you said, that's why action must be taken.
So what should we do?
It's, the sooner Congress acts, the easier it will be.
I get that.
It's not
so
what
should we do?
I'm here to support you, but not to tell you what to do. I mean, reduce the deficit. You have choices. You can look at mandatory spending on the spending side as the driver. You have healthcare costs and Social Security. On the revenue side.
Well, let me stop you for a second. Yeah, everybody always says that mandatory spending is driving the cost, but and they say, well, look, we've got to do something because the Social Security trust fund is going to run out, and Social Security is going to be automatically cut.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That's why whenever I see the Republican Party platform, they're like, there will be no cuts to Social Security and we will not be raising the age. I mean, reality is going to catch up with us when it comes to Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid anyways. So reality will make the cuts if we don't, or raise the retirement age. And I mean, listen, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but you and I know that when Social Security was created, people didn't live as long as they do now, and people are living way longer right now. It's the most obvious solution if you want to keep it solvent. But at a minimum, why don't we let young people opt out of Social Security? Why do we keep bilking new generations of taxpayers? It's because you and I know what it is. It's a pyramid scheme, right? It's a Ponzi scheme. They go and they take money from people who are the new investors, and you always got to have the new investors. Well, what happens when the population continues to slide and we don't have new investors into the program? We're going to be in a deep, serious situation here in the next 10 years. Our kids and our grandkids, if we don't make if we can't even have a serious discussion about it. I mean, here comes Secretary of State Jay Ashcroft. That means I'm going to go to the commercial break. Don't go away. We're going to talk about what does it mean to be an engineer? Do you have to go to the government and ask them for a license in order to be an engineer? Well, some people apparently think that's the case. We'll talk about that with Missouri Secretary of State and Governor candidate Jay Ashcroft on the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
Expansive time, a year might seem like a mere moment, but oh, what a year it's been. In September 2022, Austin and Stephanie Peterson embarked on a journey to wake up America. They began humbly, with just 20 souls tuning in, learning, listening, and though challenges arose, like the looming shadow of YouTube demonetization, their spirit never waned. And now, thanks to you, thousands rise with the sun to join them, to listen, to engage, to be a part of a community. So here's to you, and to Wake Up America, for memories shared, for friends made, for the journey ahead, and for never, ever forgetting to rise and freedom. Happy anniversary.
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message. Believe me, Austin Peterson is the best. He's got the greatest Wake Up America show I've ever seen. Whenever I tune in the mornings and watch the live stream, let me tell you, he has got the absolute best content. I love his guests. It's just a total blast to watch, and I highly endorse and recommend the Wake Up America show. It's terrific, believe me.
Is the outdoor of your home about as exciting as a library? Then spice it up and unbore your space with our custom metal signs. Crafted with love and a bit of libertarian magic, you can customize your own metal sign at ap4libertyshop.com. So head to ap4libertyshop.com, customize your own metal sign today.
Welcome to a world of vocal discovery at Peterson Voice Studio. I'm Justin Peterson, here to guide your musical journey. Envision a place where your voice reaches new heights, where every note tells a story. We embrace all singers, from the enthusiastic shower vocalists to aspiring stars, ensuring each voice finds its unique rhythm and tone. Are you ready to elevate your voice? Visit petersonvoicestudio.com.
Welcome back to the Wake Up America show. I'm your host, Austin Peterson. It's time to rise and freedom. We stream this show live every Monday through Friday from 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time, right in the heart of Missouri, Jefferson City, Missouri, where our Secretary of State resides. Secretary of State responsible for securing elections here in Missouri. We're going to talk to Jay Ashcroft about that and more. He's also running for governor here in the state of Missouri. Good morning, Jay.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Glad to have you here, brother. So first question that I have, I mean, you are running for governor and it is a statewide office, but a lot of governors right now are looking at the situation. You're going to have to deal with the president of the United States. I mean, if Joe Biden becomes president.
Well, let's not even think about that. I'm going to have to deal with President Donald J. Trump, and that will be an honor.
Hit the applause button. What do you think when you see what's happening with Joe Biden?
Well, it's elder abuse. It actually makes me feel bad for him. He clearly doesn't know what's going on. He clearly is a pawn that's being used by his doctor, quote, Jill Biden. She obviously wants power. His son is worried about pardons. Who's worried about Joe Biden and what's right for him?
Yeah, it is. It's kind of scary when you see what's going on
It's
with
evil.
yeah, it is. And it's, Hunter Biden is sitting in high-level press conferences and things like
I
that.
mean, is he there just passing out the crack and the meth or what?
Jay, I'm a libertarian. You know how I feel about those things and consenting adults.
I mean, there's probably hookers and
if he's lucky. But Jay, let's go ahead and just talk about the elephant in the room. You're getting a lot of flack here in the state of Missouri. An op-ed was written. The Twitter reporters are coming after you. Kansas City Star. You've based your campaign.
I think it's a good thing that the KC Star doesn't like me.
Agreed. You've based your campaign on the fact that you are an engineer, and the attacks are saying that you do not have a government license to be an engineer. How do you respond?
Well, first of all, you don't have to have a government license to be an engineer. Second of all, you shouldn't have to have a government license to be an engineer. And I guess if you want to go even further, third of all, I actually was licensed by the state of Missouri to teach engineering. But look, I have two ABET accredited engineering degrees from what used to be the University of Missouri-Rolla. I worked as an engineer in the defense industry for 4.5, almost 5 years. I taught mechanical engineering for 6 years. This is just, well, it's the consequence of a small government conservative that has threatened and will drain the swamp. And now all these people that make their livelihood taking your tax dollars for their own benefit, they've realized that, wait a minute, this guy means it. We have got to defeat him, and the truth will not get in the way of keeping big government going, according to them.
Okay, so the attacks about you not being a state licensed engineer are saying things like you misrepresented yourself.
I've never claimed to be a professional engineer. The law requires someone that holds themselves out to be a professional engineer, and a professional engineer is someone that does certain things in engineering. Very commonly are civil engineers. The vast majority of engineers will never become licensed as a professional engineer because it doesn't make sense for them.
One of the big topics that small government conservatives have been railing against in recent years is the problem that we have too much licensing.
The licensing regime, we do. Be it hair braiders or barbers or interior decorators or someone that says, look, I've got a couple degrees in engineering. I've worked as an engineer. No, you can't call yourself an engineer. What do you mean? I mean, can my opponent not call himself a small businessman since he no longer owns a small business?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. And, whether it comes to hair braiding,
because the government has no right to be telling people that sort of stuff.
Exactly. I completely agree with you, Jay. Where are these attacks coming from?
They're coming from the Kehoe campaign. If you look at who's bringing them, the one on the engineer is someone who has an engineering company with a lot of contracts with the state, who's actually donated to Mike Kehoe. If you look at the ethics complaints, you can trace those all back to Kehoe donors.
There are three people who are the main candidates in the Republican primary right now. You, Bill Eigel, Mike Kehoe.
It's kind of sad. Bill Eigel would say that he's a small government, but he's been jumping on the same bandwagon, lying about the fact that I am an engineer and claiming that I should have to have some licensure. It's really disappointing.
Okay, well, is it a two-man race or is it a three-man race?
It's a two-man race.
Okay, why do you think so?
Well, it's just because it's either going to be Mike Kehoe or myself. That's why. I mean, there are actually 9 people running, but we never say it's a 9-person race because there are only 2 people that really have the potential of winning, and that's Mike Kehoe and myself.
What are the main issues that differentiate yourself from Mike Kehoe?
How long do we have? Look, Tax Hike Mike is a big government, moderate Republican. He has made a living expanding government and then trading on taxpayer dollars that he gives to other for favors. He is the one that's throwing your tax dollars into the slop, literally, to feed the swamp. He was the motivating factor behind the largest tax increase in the history of the state, 12.5-cent gas tax, when we didn't need it. When we had billions of dollars sitting in an account the state didn't know what to do with, he went ahead and said, well, hey, we're not paying as much as we could pay for gas. Let's tax it. He doesn't stand for life. He says he's 100% pro-life, but then you look at the interviews where he says, we need to make it easier to get an abortion. I don't think you can be about liberty unless you're first about life, because unless you protect life, there is no liberty and there is no pursuit of happiness. I don't agree that we should be selling our land to our foreign adversaries. Mike Kehoe, Tax Hike Mike, has supported continually, selling our land to our adversaries. I actually led the fight in 2023 to try to stop that. Both of my opponents have specifically agreed that we should sell our land to entities like China and others that are our enemies. I disagree with that.
Bill Eigel came on this show and says he'll go even further. He doesn't even want to sell it to
a lot of stuff, but just last year he voted to let any foreign government buy any land they want in this state and even use it to do gain of function research.
Should Japan be allowed to own that Hitachi plant across the river here in Jefferson
Once
City?
again, let me just say, I think I would say that we definitely have to forbid our enemies from buying our land. Both of my opponents have been in favor of selling our land to our adversaries, and yet they lie about it in their TV commercials.
Germany has a lot of Bayer factories here in Missouri. Is that okay?
Once again, I do not think our adversaries should be able to buy our land, and I think it's unfortunate that the two other real candidates for this office have to lie about what they've done and then try to project those lies. I mean, it's really the same thing that Hillary Clinton did with Donald J. Trump. She paid the Russians to create a dossier, and then she claimed that Donald Trump was the one that was in league with the Russians.
So Japan can own that Hitachi plant?
What I've said again is we need to make sure that our adversaries can't own our land.
Joni Rankin in the chat, she's from Southwest Missouri, looking for a good governor candidate, asks about the situation with the Kansas City Chiefs and the Kansas City Royals. I've been going to Royals games my whole life, Jay, but if you have to bilk the tax,
they're doing well this year.
I know, but if you have to bilk the taxpayers to pay for a form of entertainment, nobody's paying for my Xboxes, Jay.
No,
okay.
It is wrong for the state to reach into your pocket. Well, I don't like it whenever they reach into your pocket to take your money.
Right.
But it's wrong for them to do that and just transfer it to some sports owner, whether or not they're well financed or not. That's wrong, and it doesn't work. St. Louis used to have a pro basketball team. They don't. St. Louis used to have the football Cardinals. They don't. St. Louis had the football Rams. They don't. You cannot keep a team by shoveling money. Eventually, it won't work. It's not going to work. What we have to do is turn Missouri into an economic, freedom-loving place where businesses want to come, where sports teams want to be, where people want to be. We do that by concentrating on putting parents in charge of education. We do that by supporting law enforcement, making sure that when you do the crime, you do the time, putting 1,000 more officers on the street, taking control of the St. Louis Police Department by the state to give them the resources they need, and getting rid of our state income tax. So when you make money here, you get to keep it. And instead of us taking that money and punishing you for making it and then giving it to someone and subsidizing someone that doesn't want to work or subsidizing illegal aliens. I mean, think about that. Both of my elected opponents have voted numerous times to take your tax dollars and give it to someone whose very first action in the United States was to break the law.
You're talking about the Florida model here with no income tax. I'd love to hear you expand on the idea of taking over the St. Louis Police Department. Crime has gotten out of control. Democrats have no incentive to fix it. What would this change here in the state of Missouri?
Well, first of all, here's a great example. When the state had control of the St. Louis Police Department, you had a facility that repaired and did maintenance on the police cars, and you had a facility that did maintenance on the rest of the city cars. As soon as state control was gone and control was given back to the city of St. Louis, they closed the facility that was designated just for police cars and made all vehicles go through the same facility. And as it turns out, if the mayor's car needs to be worked on, if the comptroller's car needs to be worked on, if the director of the health department's car needs to be worked on, all those get done before our law enforcement vehicles. So we have police officers that go into work, get down to their district, and sometimes they find out there's not a car that they can use to drive around and actually be seen and show the flag to protect the people of the city of St. Louis. Or sometimes they do have a vehicle, but they see someone they need to go arrest, someone committing a crime, and they can't open the car door from the inside. They have to roll down the window and open the door from the outside. That's how dilapidated their vehicles are.
My friend, childhood friend, Stephen Rue from Peculiar, Missouri, he's watching the show, and he wants to ask you again about the Kansas City Chiefs and the Royals because he is a big fan and he is deeply.
I'm not taking his money to give to the owners. If he wants to make a contribution to the Royals, he's free to do that. It's wrong for the state to do that. We're not supposed to be a democracy. We're supposed to be a constitutional republic. We're not supposed to take money from one person to give it to another person. I know that our federal government has ignored that. I know that in a lot of ways our state has forgotten that. But we 13 colonies filled with people that have been kicked out of every self-respecting country around the world became the nation's superpower with the understanding of limited government, with the understanding of personal responsibility, and the fact that if you earn it, you get to keep it. It wasn't the government that built it.
The argument that if you get rid of the income tax, taxes are just going to get raised everywhere tends to hold true, though, right?
Government has expanded by over $20 billion in the state of Missouri in the last 6 years. Our state income tax is $8.5 billion. Increase over the last 6 years, state income tax. We can do it.
What do you think about
the math doesn't lie?
The centerpiece of your opponent Bill Eigle's campaign is abolishing the personal property tax for senior citizens at minimum. I like that idea. Your thoughts?
Well, I don't like doing it just for senior citizens. If you're going to do it, you should do it for everyone. I think that we should all be equal under the law. I mean, I'm pretty sure that's written in some of our founding documents. And I don't think anybody should be above the law. But secondly, you said it correctly when you said it was a campaign thing, because he's been talking about that for 8 years. To get that done, it has to be done by the legislature. And yet he's been in the legislature for 8 years and has failed to get it done. Secondly, personal property tax is what, 850 million, maybe $1 billion if you go to the far north side of the potential possibilities for it. Getting rid of the state income tax is $8.5 billion. Why in the world are we saying let's give the people back this when in fact we could be giving the people back this? Secondly, if you look at how the property tax things are written, they have them designed so that the state supplements whatever property tax loss there is to the local municipality, so it doesn't cut government. If you don't cut government, you know what you can know for sure? Taxes will rise. You have to cut government. If you go after the income tax, it's large enough that it requires you to change government. It requires you to cut government, but it's small enough that it really is achievable to go from where we are to zero in the next 6 to 8 years.
Go ahead. The feds are fighting over the issue of illegal immigrants voting. Democrats seem to be in favor of this by blocking the Republican plans to do so. Can illegal immigrants vote here in Missouri?
Legally, no, but can they? Potentially, yes. And there's a lot of talk about putting something in the Constitution that says only citizens can vote. That won't make an actual difference. What we and it's a red herring that unfortunately some non-conservatives are putting out. What you have to do is you have to require proof of citizenship for people that want to register. You have to require proof of citizenship for people that want to vote. Because if all you do is say you're not allowed to vote unless you're a citizen, oh, I'll just check the box that says I'm a citizen and I get to vote even if I'm not. That's the problem. And we need states to stand up. The United States Constitution gives states control over who's allowed to register, other than the age, women's suffrage, and prohibiting racial discrimination. Constitution of the 17th Amendment, and what is it, Article 1, Clause 2, I think, where it defines who the electors are for the U.S. House of Representatives, gives the ability and the right to decide who's allowed to vote to states. Therefore, registration is a matter for the states. That's why I pushed for years to get our legislature to put in a requirement that anyone that wants to vote or register to vote has to affirmatively prove they're a citizen. That's the only way to protect our elections against non-citizen voting.
There's an old joke that Republicans campaign like libertarians and then govern like Democrats. When it comes to cutting taxes and cutting spending, Republicans always talk a big game about it. They tend to not get into the specifics. As governor of the state,
convenient conservatives.
Exactly. As the governor of Missouri, which government agencies do you think can work with a smaller budget? Which budgets would you cut?
I think we're going to see, generally speaking, we might almost see across the board cuts. I mean, one of the things that we learned during COVID was that we sent people home and life continued. I had friends that even ran into quote full-time state workers that had taken full-time jobs at I'll just say at local hardware stores, and that tells you that there are problems there. There's going to have to be some reallocation. We definitely need to do some things to support law enforcement. We definitely need to make some major changes with the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education and put parents in charge of those funds. We don't need big government telling us how to teach our kids. We don't need big government teaching us what values we should be teaching our kids. We need local government doing that, and the most local government is mom and dad.
So are you saying that DESE can do with less money?
I think we're definitely going to see how much money DESE needs. There are reports from some members of the budget committee that there's about $1 billion or $1.2 billion of revolving money that DESE gets every year that they don't need. So that's a great place to cut. But the main important thing with regard to DESE is I don't want some unelected bureaucrats telling your kids, if you had them, where they're going to go to school and how they should be schooled. I want the money that would otherwise go to that public school to go directly into an account for the parent to decide if that public school is good for their child. Go ahead and send it there. If they want to use it for homeschooling, if they want to use it for private school, if they want to use it for tutoring. I care about educating children, teaching them to think, and empowering teachers. And putting parents in charge will do just that.
Yeah, that's a big question because I will have them 2 weeks from now. Baby Hazel will be born. She'll become another Jeffersonian. You and I, we both
just remember your wife is doing all the work.
I know she is. Well, I also have to wake up when she's
don't even say that. She's doing all the work.
One last thing here on the local level, Jay. Here in Jefferson City or Cole County, we had a vote on a library tax. You showed up to vote against that library tax.
Very happily.
Yeah. So, you kind of have put your money where your mouth is when it comes to showing up to vote against tax increases. Would you say that, the fiscal issues, being a fiscal conservative, are some of your top issues? Because nowadays we're hearing from Republicans on the national level, at least, that this idea of limited government or this idea of classical liberalism really is sort of a sham. One party, somebody is going to hold power, and it might as well be us. So it's kind of, progressive republicanism has a long tradition in the Republican Party. The Teddy Roosevelt Republic. Yeah, well, the Teddy Roosevelt Republicans, this idea that we need a muscular interventionist form of government that forces our views, our conservative views on the public is how we should go. How do you feel about this new movement of progressive Republican in the G?
I think that, and as governor, I will govern this way. Government should only do those things that have to be done, that cannot be done by private individuals or other private enterprise. Government is best that governs the least.
Yeah, good to hear. Secretary of State Jay Ashcroft running for governor in the state of Missouri. Is there anything else that we missed or we left out that you'd like to cover before we go?
Yeah, vote on August 6th for Jay Ashcroft at Jay Ashcroft Mo on X, AshcroftForMissouri.com, or Ashcroft for Missouri on Facebook.
And doing a favor, hold up a picture of your engineering certificate here. This is what we have here.
This is my teaching certificate from the state that specifically
Let me see it here.
Said I could teach mechanical engineering and mechanical engineering technology.
Now, I've got a picture of this that I'm going to tweet out after this interview. It says right here that you can teach engineers. So I guess if you can teach engineers, you might be able to call yourself an engineer. It might be a safe bet.
Well, our government doesn't seem to want to allow that, but that just shows problems with our governments. And of course, I do meet the legal requirements.
Mr. Ashcroft, thank you for your time. Good luck on your campaign. Have a great day.
Thank you very much. You too.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Ashcroft. All right, we'll be back with more with Camelia Peterson. She'll react to the interview that we just had with Secretary Jay Ashcroft, and we'll talk to her a little bit more about Biden's cognitive decline. George Clooney says he should step down after he raises millions of dollars from a bunch of punks. Ouch. We'll talk about that when we get back on the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
Cantina Crew, this is Elon Musk, the CEO of Twitter, and I just want to say thank you for watching the Wake Up America show. I've decided that Austin Peterson will be the new CEO of Twitter.com, effective immediately. First thing to do, though, is I've got to go and blast off into space.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun.
I think that at the heart of my philosophy is much more libertarianism than well, that's the fashionable word these days, I guess. A conservative is no longer just that. He's a libertarian and always has been.
Yet any time you and I question the schemes of the do-gooders, we're denounced as being against their humanitarian goals. They say we're always against things, we're never for anything.
What is fascism? Fascism is private ownership, private enterprise, but total government control and regulation.
Well, the trouble with our liberal friends is not that they're ignorant. It's just that they know so much that isn't so. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. This is the issue of this election. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
The conservative, so-called, is the one that says less government, get off my back, get out of my pocket, and let me have more control of my own destiny.
Welcome back. Welcome back to the Wake Up America show. Unmute that mic. Nice to see you guys. We appreciate you tuning in to the Wake Up America show. It's time to rise and freedom. If you guys are enjoying the content, don't forget to click that like button. Yes, sir. We'd love to have support from all of our friends on Rumble. Make sure that you download the Rumble app, though. Once you download it, search for my channel. It's AP for Liberty, and follow my channel directly on the app. That's going to make sure that you get a notification every time that we go live. Click the link that you see in the description or in the pinned live chat to download the Rumble app on your phone. It's free. If you prefer to watch us on the big screen, it's also available for Apple TV, Android TV, Fire TV, Roku, LG, and Samsung TVs. All you need to do is search for Rumble. Thank you, Rumble. We appreciate you. Rumble Studio as well. But you guys are just so excited to hear the news about the new shows that the Wake Up America show is going to be debuting soon. You guys are running around screaming, I can't wait to find out. Who do you think it's going to be? Send us a text at 573-319-1586. The text line, again, 573-319-1586. Maybe I should open up the text messages so I can read them. Somebody says, hey, buddy, I hope to see you in Milwaukee this weekend. An upcoming week. I'm leaving Saturday from Harrisburg to Detroit, Detroit to Milwaukee. It's going to be huge. Yeah, I can't, unfortunately, go to the Republican convention. I was only a state delegate. And I should have asked him about the delegate battle that's going on here in the state of Missouri too. Damn it. Next time. Sorry, guys. Another listener texted in, says, you mentioned 3D ultrasounds. Yeah, because we got one of our baby. I've seen online where people use a 3D printer and make realistic 3D figures with them. That would be really cool. Yes, I sent it to you, Camellia. I sent you the invite, but I'm going to do it one more time. There you go. Just sent you the invite. And now we're just waiting for you. I've been waiting for a girl like you to accept my invite. There she is. Camellia Peterson has entered the waiting room. Now she is coming live into the chat. Now I'm going to play the clip of CNN talking about George Clooney, or I was going to play that clip. Let's see. Hold on one second. Let me see if Camellia is there. Oh, yes, there she is. And Camellia, now you're live. What's up? How you doing?
Good. How are you? I'm juggling networks, trying to find something that will work well at yet another hotel.
Oh, okay. Well, we appreciate you taking a little time out of your day for us. Did you manage to hear the interview with Secretary Ashcroft?
I did. I was listening.
Your take.
It was good. Everyone knows, I think by now, that education, if I had to be a one issue voter, like education at this point is probably the issue for me. And there are a lot of good reasons for that. I actually firmly believe that the education of our children is the last stand for liberty in this country. And I appreciate every time how adamant Secretary Ashcroft is about that the parents should have the right to choose the best education for their children, and that our tax dollars need to follow that. Wherever the parents think is is the best suited education for their child, those tax dollars that we're all been paying and have been paying in for decades should be going to educate that child. And children shouldn't be limited in their education by where they live or how much money their parents make. So I appreciate how strongly he has stood on this issue. And I think what he had to say about DESE was spot on, in that there is this kind of revolving door of funds. In fact, I talked with a representative who dug into the DESE books, here a year or two ago one time. And I told him, I was like, if you told everyone what you told me about how they manipulate their funding and stick it away into accounts that can't be touched, when they could be spending this money on teachers, people would be appalled. But it is like the bureaucracy is protecting itself, and it's just insatiable in its appetite. And they have to meet their minima. So they have to put these funds away, because if they actually show that they spent less in a year, then they wouldn't get more money the next time around. So they manipulate the system, and it's time for somebody to take care of that as well.
I had to push him a little bit, but I think, if I understand correctly, that he was suggesting that DESE could use some cuts to spending, right? Because that really was the question. Whenever you ask a politician about government spending, they'll say, yes, we need less spending, less taxes. But then when you ask them which government agencies, it gets a little squishy. But did you also get the impression that DESE would be in his crosshairs?
Oh, I think so. And I noticed I don't know if I would call it a hesitation. I think it's probably a hesitation in how to frame the answer to it. But I do understand that, because it is like DESE is a behemoth to take on, as far as, protecting its own interests and what you're up against politically. However, it's also something that is, it's hard to undo in the law. It's in the Constitution. DESE's role is not very specifically defined, and so they have a lot of mission creep. But because of our very complex funding formula, it makes that whole process a lot more difficult. And so it's easy to say, yes, we're going to slash DESE, we're going to get rid of it, but rhetoric is rhetoric. And I know some of his opponents are saying that. Well, one of his opponents are saying that, but it is not as easy to do in practice as it is in rhetoric, of course. But we do still need to start taking steps towards making that happen.
Good stuff. Camelia, what did you think about how he responded to the accusations that he's not a real engineer?
I mean, it's so laughable. It's like Missouri politics is so stupid in so many ways right now. I can't believe we're even having this conversation. Yes. Even that op-ed that was written that kept saying, from an engineer who was criticizing him, kept changing up what they're saying, and that they would say that, well, you can't be an engineer, but really you can't be a professional engineer. And people don't like to make that distinction. And I thought that Jay explained that very well in terms of the differences in calling yourself a professional engineer and the requirements for that and the reasons for it. So it's just really stupid that we're having this, but we're, a little less than 4 weeks out from the elections, to be expected. I'm sure it will get worse. Yay.
Yeah. John Knox over in the chat says that Camelia looks especially beautiful today.
Oh, Thank you. The lighting is better in this hotel. That always helps.
Camelia, let's talk about the George Clooney asking Joe Biden to step down. After he raised millions of dollars from a bunch of punks in Hollywood for him, now he's asking Joe Biden to step down. CNN is doing real journalism these days. It's sort of backwards world in the media where you actually have reporters doing their jobs. It's a bit shocking, but I don't know if you feel this way too, but now that the left is sort of acknowledging what we've already known, I'm kind of scared because it's kind of frightening to see that Joe Biden is actually in charge with the situation that we're in.
Yeah, so I always kind of liked Jake Tapper, and then he sort of went off the rails, right, a few years ago, and I lost some respect for him then. So it is interesting to see all these videos of him and how he's talking about Biden, and he's like, I hear what you're telling me. I don't believe it, right? So yeah, it is weird. Everything is upside down, and it almost makes you skeptical about it, right? Because it doesn't seems really off.
Yeah, like it seems like it's not real. It seems like this isn't that we're living in bizarre world. But what do you think? Do you think the Democrats are going to try and replace him at the convention? They've got time.
I cannot fathom that they won't. And as far as the media goes, like CNN, I think that they are somewhat in self-preservation mode now because they see that, and they know that they have to have somebody else to not be the laughing stock of the left. I mean, the left will be the laughing stock of the world if they put Joe Biden back in office again.
If you're just tuning in to the Wake Up America show, good morning. I'm Austin Peterson. I'm joined here by Camelia Peterson. We are friends. We are not relatives. And we'd love it if you join us on the regular schedule every Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. The Wake Up America show streams live. We have raised $5 towards the $60 goal to unlock today's bonus content. Womp womp. But I haven't really been plugging it that hard. If you'd like to see today's mini documentary, don't forget to get those Rumble rants in or head to forlibertyshop.com and help us to unlock today's bonus content mini documentary. Is he going to do another debate?
Oh, surely not. Like, do they have one on?
They've called for it.
Do they have one scheduled yet?
I don't think it's scheduled, but I know that the Biden people are saying, the Biden people who are still pro-Biden are saying that there will be another one. I mean, he did call for 2 debates.
Well, let's do it. I mean, heck yeah, let's do it, because that'll be, like, if that's not the nail in the coffin, I don't know what would be.
Can you imagine what it must be like to have Karine Jean-Pierre's job at this moment, to have to be the White House press secretary in front of all this?
No, like,
I almost feel
how
bad
has she
for her.
not quit, right? How has she not quit yet, right? I'd be so done.
No kidding. What did you think of that Did you see the Peter Doocy clip that I played yesterday where he says, what happens at 11 p.m. if a nuke is set? Who do you call? The first lady?
Yeah, that's, wow. God bless Peter Doocy.
What do you think happens if we end up with Kamala Harris? Do you think she wins?
Wow, maybe if she wins, gosh, boy, that's tough. If she wins, it's because they hate Trump enough to elect her. I will say, though, that this 51% in the middle makes things very unpredictable. People who are not happy with either side. And I mentioned to you briefly last night, I've been at the doors a lot. And so the last couple of days I've been in the rural town in sort of mid-northern Missouri of Marshall, Missouri. And one of the things I kept running into was people would ask me if the candidate I was knocking for supported Trump. And it's a little bit odd, right? And especially in a rural area like this. And I was like, well, and so I have a fairly diplomatic way of answering that, because there is no Republican candidate in Missouri right now that's going to say that they're not supporting Donald Trump, right? Some are more vocal about it than others. But so, we talk about that. And finally, after all of this, there was a lady that said that she got a mailer for the other guy and it had Trump all over it. And I do know that this is something that some of my other candidate friends have been telling me. There is a particular consultant in Missouri, and like they see this, they will know who they are, who are pushing candidates to put Trump with their candidate on every mailer that they send out. And they think, and I know that they think that's going to sell really well here in Missouri. I think it's a strategic mistake, because the problem is like, you already, vast majority of these candidates are already going to have in the primary the support, or they're going to assume that people will support Donald Trump. And so they're going to vote for somebody not based necessarily on their support for Donald Trump or not. However, what you do is you alienate those people who are maybe a little more in the independent side and who are still want to be Republicans, and they still hold Republican values, but they're not crazy about Donald Trump. And so you alienate those people, and so it makes those people less likely to vote for someone if they perceive that they're like gung-ho, diehard, Trump supporters. And, you could get away with it, I think, more in Southwest Missouri, but I'm not so sure that the rest of the state is quite like that, and it's a higher risk. But I think that really speaks to where we are in terms of when we go to the general election in November. People are going to get on one side or the other. I think that they're not necessarily going to choose RFK Jr. or third-party candidates so much, because they know that things have to change. So they will, they'll tough it out and they'll vote for Donald Trump because they want to get rid of Joe Biden. But down ballot races are a different story. So both in the primary, and then also we will have several very close state level, representative and Senate districts who will be much more at risk in the general election because of what's at the top of the ticket. That's just the reality of it.
Where would we be without Andy Opperman, who just bought a pair of Star-Spangled Sneaks over at the shop and unlocked the bonus content for you all? Thanks, Andy. You're gonna love them. Stephanie and I love hers. She got hers, and then walked all over Japan with them. They're really nice shoes. So congrats. Hope you enjoy them. And that means you guys get to see the bonus content after Camellia is gone, and we move over to Daniela Pensack. Let's talk about Donald Trump here for a second. It seems as if he's learned his lessons. It seems as if he's sitting back and letting the Democrats make these mistakes. He's not interjecting himself.
Or he's not interrupting them while they're making mistakes, right?
Is our children learning?
Oh God, I hope so.
I mean, have you noticed this? I mean, it seems we saw his performance in the debate, and the Democrats are probably just desperate for Trump to come out and start saying stupid stuff in order to get attention. But it's all the focus on Biden. Whoever's advising him now is definitely better than whoever it was in 2016 or 2020.
Yes, and I think that is such the important thing. That's why I'm waiting to see who he comes out and chooses as his VP candidate. So important who is around him. One of the things that came up when we're talking about Trump, and we call this Trump's party now, but one of the things that's come up with all of the RNC convention brouhaha is that, and the whole the platform that's come out and such, and how it's kind of written in Trumpy language and whatnot. One of the concerns that somebody brought up that is a Trump supporter is that, acknowledging that Trump is not necessarily ideologically grounded. And if he comes in with no opposition and has no pushback on the platform or anything else, and this really, truly 100% is his party, that, I mean, there's risk to that in terms of, the direction of the party, in terms of the principles of the party. So I think we do need to be cautious about that. And we, the Republican Party, for as much as they want to support Trump right now, we need to really get away from this worship of our politicians. It's not, and the thing is, this is a cultural issue. It is not just of the worship of Donald J. Trump, because for as much as there's Trump derangement syndrome, there is absolutely Trump worship syndrome. And the thing is
it just me? Is it just me? It doesn't feel like it's as strong as it used to be. Maybe it's just the people that I see online, but this is going to piss a lot of people off when I say this, but it almost feels like the DeSantis people have become like the new super annoying people online, right? Versus Donald Trump people, MAGA people who are like, they look sane and rational compared to anybody who has an alligator in their bio. Like, I open my Twitter account and I see like this Pedro Gonzalez guy, and they're all freaking flipping out because Trump didn't endorse Project 2025, this Heritage Foundation think tank, writes this paper. The left is freaking out about it. Donald Trump's like, I didn't write it. I didn't have anything to do with it. And then the DeSantis people are all like, people, you didn't endorse this project that was written by your own people. And it's like, dude, he didn't have anything to do with it. And it's all down the line DeSantis people. They have just not gotten over their primary loss.
Sure. And I think it's easy to be gracious and it's easy to take the high road when you're the winner, right? So I think it's easy for Trump people to come off, looking reasonable now. They weren't, I think at first that they were not behaving that way. They certainly weren't behaving that way whenever DeSantis was in the race. But yes, the tables have been turned. And so I think that is part of it. I'm actually really glad that Trump didn't come out and endorse that, not because I have an issue with some of the things in Project 2025. I mean, I remember we talked about this project when it first came out, quite a while back, and this plan that, the Heritage Foundation and several other orgs that have come on supporting this had. And I think the goals were good in terms of, it was a way, honestly, of preparing people to be around Trump who knew what they were doing and in position so that, so that he wouldn't make all of these mistakes that he made last time in who he chooses. That said, there are also a lot of organizations who have come on board with this that I think are on the side of things that we're a little concerned about when it comes to the whole Christian nationalism move, I mean, honestly, by the Heritage Foundation away from the principles of free market capitalism and questioning that in how America works. This is the foundation of the American dream.
The thing that strikes me as funny about the Heritage Foundation trying to glom on to the national conservative movement and the populist surge is that it's so forced, right? These stuffy, stodgy old conservatives are they're trying to be hip. They're trying to be with it and be like, oh, we don't really support free markets anymore, kids. We're not from the 1980s anymore. We get it. We're going to do a TikTok about how we believe actually that free markets are not good and that God really needs to be in charge of all of our government stuff. Right, kids? And it's kind of like, whoa, okay, boomers.
There is this trend though on the right, and I think when you mentioned earlier Biden and the AFL-CIO, and I think he going to speak there, so he's doing something with him here soon. It made me think that this is something that's come up just in the last couple of days, is that the Teamsters, the head of the Teamsters, has been invited to speak at the RNC convention. And this is not a new thing anymore. Trump has been kind of catering to them and, trying to, and so has our Senator Josh Hawley.
Sure, but this whole thing about Christian nationalism and all this stuff is the thing that it's great about Trump is that he is secular. He doesn't truck with the wild-eyed radicals, right? And the Christian supremacy people that are all about this is a Christian nation and stuff. We have to have Christian nationalism. It's they're only one part of the coalition of people in the Republican Party, right? They're the loudest, they're the most aggressive and hostile, but they're only a part of the coalition. And Donald Trump does a pretty good job of being like, nope, right? And and I might not even agree with Donald Trump on the abortion issue, but I kind of appreciate the fact that he's kind of like, you have to get elected. It's kind of at least he's it's honest how refreshing he is and stuff like that. And I'm pro-life, but sometimes our pro-life colleagues, the is just that there's pro-life and then there's pro-life Inc., right? The pro-life, just like there's Big Con, right? But there's a lot of people who are in the pro-life movement because they're pulling a paycheck from lonely spinsters who that's their issue. And if they didn't constantly read about abortion, then they wouldn't be getting paid, right? Something like that. And it's abortion is important, but we have other issues as well. And we also have to get elected. One more thing, though, before I let you go, everybody in Missouri is just the grassroots, and then there's Grassroots Inc. There's grassroots and then there's gynos.
We're all grassroots until we're establishment, right?
Until we're established, grassroots in name only. Gynos, right, instead of rhinos. They're all the grassroots are all upset about what happened with the Missouri delegates and the credentialing. It is a very arcane question, and a lot of people don't understand how credentialing of delegates works, and of the very arcane rules of things that happen in political maneuvering at these conventions. But apparently, and I wish I'd asked Jay Ashcroft about it, but I didn't have time because he was one of the delegates who was supposed to go to Milwaukee this week, but he got kicked off of the list. I should have asked him how he felt about that. Maybe I'll text him and see if I can get an answer. But what's your take on this whole situation about what happened with the grassroots delegates who won the slate? Then suddenly the Republican establishment just kicks them off.
Yeah, I'm somewhere in the middle on this because I think that there are legitimate mistakes on and errors on, not just mistakes, but errors on both sides. And I do think that the truly grassroots for Trump slate of people, they came in and they did make mistakes in the county and the congressional level caucuses and how they submitted their delegate slates and things like that, that complicated the credentialing process at the day of convention. I was there, glutton for punishment, sat through the whole thing, beginning to end. And the stories that have been putting out, of course, everybody's got their side of it and they want to make it sound as bad or as good as it is to make them look better. And, the takeover side saying, oh, it's 5 hours late. Well, it wasn't 5 hours late. You can say that, but in practical reality, it would have never started when they say it started, even if everything had been done perfectly. But the thing is like, what happened when these complaints were registered with the RNC, and the RNC has had to make a call on this? The RNC basically said there's so many issues here, and there definitely was an issue with the credentialing, but they chose to only take on one part of that, and they rejected the slate and they recommended replacing it. Now, what I think that our state GOP should have done was to have been a little more even-handed with the people that they put on the new replacement slate. I actually was in favor of Eigel and Ashcroft being removed from the slate. I think that that's actually a good thing right here in the middle of an election cycle and 4 weeks out from the date. But that said, I think that I'm not sure that the truly grassroots Trump slate would have been happy with any, if they had been given half of the seats. I'm not sure that they would have been happy with that, or if they would have taken it. And let's not forget that who is the co-chair of the RNC right now?
Who?
It is Laura Trump. So here's the thing that, scuttle is that there was involvement in this decision all the way from the top. And let's not forget that the Eigel campaign, who is largely credited with spearheading this takeover, they were given a cease and desist by the Trump campaign a while back for fundraising on his name. So there's lots of things I think in play here. It's a mess. It doesn't make any difference to the average voter. It's all insider politics.
It's just,
right?
It's the kind of thing where because no matter what people think of us, we're just a couple of normie citizens just trying to advance limited government here in our state. And so because you and I, we're not millionaires, we're not powerful people here in the state of Missouri. We tend to hang out with normies, right? We're not hanging out with Mike Kehoe on the weekends at his palatial estate drinking beers or whatever. but so our grassroots friends who aren't maybe as in the know as we are we got hornswoggled. And it's kind of because we're a little bit more in the know, we're kind of a little bit, right? And so it makes us look like we're establishment, like we're drinking beers with Mike Kehoe on the weekend, but it's bro, we are not drinking beers with Mike Kehoe. We're partially, because Jay Ashcroft, he was part of the rebel slate from Cole County where I'm at that said, and he got kicked off of the delegate slate. Bill Eigel, yes, he is more of a rebel and he got kicked off as well, but it's kind of you're going to say Jay Ashcroft is establishment, and he holds a seat in government here, but you have to understand that the forces that are at play here are not quite so easy as just grassroots versus establishment. It's much more complex than that. And unfortunately, the more we learn and the more you understand about things, the more knowledge that you have, the harder it is to explain to people.
Yes.
Right. But the dumber you are and the less you know, the easier everything is, because everything's just black or white, this or that. They're a good guy, they're a bad guy, and that's all it is. Not saying that isn't the case sometimes, but it's anyways, Johnny Rankin says hornsquabbled. No, it's hornswoggled. Hornswoggled.
Hornswoggled. That's a $5 word.
Thank you. I got to go get Paniella Densack. She's coming up next. Amelia, anything else you want to share with our listeners before we let you go?
I would just say, when it comes to how you deal with your local politics, and I hate that this stuff turns people off because we need people to be involved and because
Right.
they care about issues that affect them. But, build a relationship with your local representatives because it is possible most of them are receptive to that. And also keep in mind that I know we all want to be right about things, but also recognize that no matter how much you like your guy, like he or she are not perfect. Like they are imperfect humans, and we need to stop building them up and putting them on those pedestals, and taking them for who they are and the best that they have to give us and accepting some of the worst.
There we go. Camelia Peterson, thanks so much for your time and for looking so lovely so early in the morning for us. We appreciate you. Have a wonderful day.
Have a great day, everyone.
Have a great day. Give it up for Camelia. All right. So if you want to go to Duke University Medical School, then you better not show up on time because that is white supremacy. We're going to talk to Paniela Densack about that when we get back on the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. Enjoy the bonus content, guys, and say thank you to Andy Opperman for unlocking it for you all. We'll be right back. Wake Up America. Welcome back to the Wake Up America show. I'm your host, Austin Peterson. It's time to rise and freedom. I hope you enjoyed that mini documentary. Thank you to Andy Opperman for unlocking it today by going to forlibertyshop.com and buying himself a beautiful pair of patriotic American flag shoes, star-spangled shoes. Shoe off your patriotism. Andy, and when I see you around town, we'll both be wearing our star-spangled kicks, brother. Thank you for doing that. But that Supreme Court case, the slaughterhouse cases, definitely set up a battle that will still be to come one day when we take our rights to work back. Those slaughterhouse cases are ones that definitely deserve your attention. They involve involuntary servitude. They involve monopoly and the question about whether or not we have a right to work in this country, which of course has yet to be litigated again. If you're interested in learning more about that, I highly recommend you check out the Institute for Justice in Arlington, Virginia, which has been trying to relitigate those slaughterhouse cases and the 14th Amendment's clause and whether or not you and I do have a right to work. They are the leading litigators for liberty here in the country. Highly recommend them. All right, well, if you want to work at places like the Institute of Justice, you better show up on time. But if you show up on time as a student at Duke University's medical school, that might be a sign of white supremacy. Joining us now to discuss, Paniela Densack, the whitest kid you know. Daniela?
That's true, Austin. I can confirm I'm very white, as everyone can see here.
Daniela, welcome to the show. We love having you on Thursdays at 8:30 a.m. Central Time as a regular guest on the show. We're really excited to have you. Thanks for getting up early. Tell us about what Duke University is doing at their medical school.
Yeah, so Duke University Medical School, they have put out a statement where they are fighting against, or they're trying to promote an anti-racist workforce. And so apparently what they do not expect of their workers now and their other employees is to come on time, dress professionally, speak well, or what they even stated as exemplified traits of individualism or even perfectionism. Because I think all of those are characteristic of being racist and contributing to a white supremacy culture. And so that's what we're dealing with right now, Austin. This reminds me of back in the day of people like Robin DiAngelo. I don't know if you're familiar, but she wrote White Fragility. I have a copy of the book. I had to read it in college. And what they were doing is that she was going around having these, or they were also passing out her book to these private companies where they would have anti-racist training sessions or struggle sessions, I like to call it, where they're teaching employees to exemplify anti-racist attitudes in the workplace that made that woman a lot of money. So, just a waste of time. And it's discouraging proper workplace functions.
Daniela, the thing about diversity, equity, and inclusion standards, the thing about these anti-racist trainings is that it sort of breeds racism. I never used to think about these things when I had a pilot or if I had a doctor who was a minority, but it's because of protocols like this that if I had a doctor and they said they went to Duke University Medical School and they were a minority, I might look twice at them because of things like this.
Yes, I would be very much afraid to have a medical professional from this university now, simply because of this. And it's also generating this I don't know. I wouldn't want to call it a stereotype, but it's like this attitude that somehow minorities can't show up on time, they can't dress professionally. You know what I'm saying? Like it's a very belittling. If I was a minority or a person of color, or whatever you want to call it these days, I would be quite offended. And I imagine a lot of these people are offended because you know, it's like the white person, it's like the white savior complex situation almost where, you know, in a way it kind of it has you know, displays itself as like, well, white people were somehow better, but we recognize that these people of color can't do these things, and so we should acknowledge that and give them a safe space where they can be themselves without acting professionally. And I mean, obviously that's extremely belittling, and it's assuming that minorities can't have or exemplify these behaviors. It's completely wrong.
Now, Daniela, we've got 4 topics to blaze through here on this one,
Yeah.
so let's move on to the next one very briefly. Casey Affleck, is that her name, or no? It's
Violet.
Violet
Yeah.
Affleck, the daughter of Jennifer Garner and Ben Affleck, had
Mhm.
something to say at a public meeting in Los Angeles recently. What did she have to say?
Yes, a child of the Hollywood royalty or Hollywood elite has spoken at their LA County Council. She demanded mask mandates again in public spaces. She wants more mask mandates in medical centers once again in LA County. She stated how she has contracted post-COVID and it greatly affected her, and she knows one or thing or two about how medicine isn't always effective. So and she made quite a show about it. It went a little viral on social media the other day. But on her way there, she was also paparazzi caught her walking there with a mask on, and she had a book of it's titled The Viral Underclass, and it's a book that talks about how income inequality contributed to the rise in death rates in during COVID-19. And it looked almost staged. And I'm gonna be a little bit of a conspiracy theorist right now, and I think it was staged. I mean, if you look at the pictures, she has like the cover conveniently up front. It's really cringe. She's 18, you know, she's just a young girl. She wants to make a big scene about it, so whatever. But she went on and she spoke saying how she demands these masks. And like obviously this hurts the average American. It hurts businesses. These people get off to controlling you. And, you know, she's a child. It's interesting to see this phenomenon of having children, um, you know, make these statements publicly. It kind of reminds me of Greta Thunberg a little bit. I think she's trying to tap into her inner Greta Thunberg in this one. So it's very cringe, unfortunately.
Greta Thunberg. How dare you? We've got a soundboard for that one. Yeah, there's something about an 18-year-old wearing a mask, getting up in front of her government saying, if I demand anything, like I'm pretty much done, right? I demand, right? But speaking of celebrities, Amber Rose, she's an ex-stripper, will be speaking at the Republican National Convention, and some conservatives are mad. She's a former love interest of Kanye West. She's a model, former stripper, and people are mad. What's the story here?
She also has an OnlyFans, Austin. Don't forget that part.
Oh no, yeah.
So she's making a lot of bank doing that. But yeah, and she went viral, I think, recently. She posted bikini pictures of her with, I think she's wearing like the Trump hat, saying how she supports Donald Trump. Listen, you know, I don't want to be I don't want to be a prude. I probably already have that reputation. I don't know on your show, Austin, but like so maybe I'll lean into it. But I just think this is a bad look. I'm sorry. I know we're libertarians here, and we can perhaps have a more libertine attitude towards these things, but I just think it's a very bad look. Unfortunately, she's going to speak there, and I don't know if she should be characteristic or indicative of where the GOP is going nationally. You know, if anything really makes me want to go third party, it is this move right here. I don't know if they couldn't find any better people to speak at this event, but she will be speaking the next few days. It's, you know, people are questioning about why the state of our nation is going to hell in a handbasket. Perhaps it's because we're getting OnlyFans models to speak at their events. So I don't know. I have a few negative feelings about it personally, but
okay. Well, if you could choose someone to more represent the more libertarian, libertine sort of wing of the Republican Party, the non-evangelical wing of the Republican Party, who would you see instead of Amber Rose, OnlyFans model?
I mean, why can't we just get Ron Paul to speak again? He's still around. He's still like he's more lucid than Biden anyway. Why? I mean, I think I understand. Look, I understand the need to have attractive women, spread a message, obviously. But but at the same time,
She said without a hint of irony.
right. But at the same time, we need to have more respectable people on stage and people with a substantive message, and I don't, maybe I'm judging her too harshly. I'll give it a listen. But maybe she has something good to say. I'm just saying, based on what I've seen, and I don't know her like all that well. I just know a bit about her, and her, professional outings in the past. I believe she's married to his Khalifa as well. So maybe she has some wisdom to drop on us. Maybe I'm judging her too harshly. I don't know. Maybe I'm being like a sex negative feminist right now, which I have been accused of quite a bit.
Sex negative feminist. Wow,
Yeah.
those are some big terms here, and you can only hear things like that at this time in the morning on the Wake Up America show. So if you're enjoying it, make sure you click the like button on the stream. And if it's your first time here watching the Wake Up America show, we'd love it if you'd come back and join us for our regular schedule. It's Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time, 2-hour tour de force of economic freedom and personal liberty, all the news you can use. Daniela joins us live on the show every Thursday at 8:30 a.m. Central Time. So if you want to hear from Daniela again, you got to come back next Thursday at this time. She's a regular guest. So click follow before you leave the show today so you can find us again tomorrow morning, of course, when Freedom Family Friday is going to happen. So you brought up Ron Paul and being more lucid than Joe Biden. The last story here that you had to share with us was that the White House press secretary, Karine Jean-Pierre, admitted that she gave false information about Biden's neurology visit. Tell us the news.
Yeah, so I will say this. She has the most difficult job right now after the debate that happened a couple weeks ago. So I have a little bit of empathy for her. I know people told me not to have any empathy for her. I do. I watch some of the press briefings. It's very painful to watch and cringe. I don't know if you've watched it, Austin, but I feel really bad for her. But yes, she did come out stating that he did not have a visit from the neurologist originally. And then she came out saying that was false. He actually did. This neurologist specializes in a Parkinson's disease. So he has been tested for that. And, I don't think I have to explain to anyone here that Biden is in a very bad state. It takes all the will of every doctor on the nation, and all the pharmaceuticals we have access to, I think, to keep him alive right now. I think that also him being in this role at all is just a major stressor in his life. I'm surprised. I'm going to be honest. After watching the debate, I'm surprised he's still alive. There was a few moments in the debate where I thought he actually was dying. I don't know if you remember, but there was a few moments where he was looking down in his notes and he was just like stuck frozen there. And I thought, oh no, is this the moment? Like this is going to be change the history of political debate in general. But yes, she did come out stating that that information was false. It was slightly embarrassing. She did have to say it in private after. So I'm wondering if it was strategized where she said did the mistake on camera, if you know what I mean, to give like the general impression out to the public because it is election season. So, so your average voter, the average person watching may think, oh, he didn't have a visit from the professional, he's fine. It's a major cope. And I've seen a lot of Democrats cope with this. I don't understand. It's slightly embarrassing. It's very sad. I think a lot of Democrats are aware of what's happening, but I don't know if you've paid attention or if you know who what's his name, Harry Sisson is.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's
the Democrat twink that they bring out to
right.
repeat all their talking points on TikTok. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was paying attention to his Twitter during the debate, and the cope was just unreal, Austin. He was saying, "Oh, he got Trump. Oh, look at him. He made a great point." Like, okay, the guy can barely speak. Can we stop? It's embarrassing, But yeah. But we'll see what happens. I feel it's like, listen, I'm not the biggest fan of Trump. People know that. It's really unfortunate that we're at this state. I really don't know how we got to this point, choosing between these two people, but here we are.
Well, I do, and at least on the Republican side of things, I think Republicans were tired of losing politely. I think that when they you were just kind of a kid when Mitt Romney and John McCain. How old were you in 2008, Daniela?
Oh boy, I would have been 12, I think. 13, 12.
You were 12 years
Yeah.
old during my very first political campaign for Congressman Ron Paul, trying to get the nomination for the Republican Party, and they nominated John McCain. And then after that, in 2012, they nominated Mitt Romney, which would have made you 16 at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So people at that time, Danielle, I don't know how politically aware you were at 16 years old, but Republicans got sick and tired of losing with friendly, kind, conservative candidates.
Mm-hmm.
So the phenomenon of Donald Trump is that the Republican Party said to themselves, listen, they kind of threw their hands up in the air and they were exasperated, and they said, we're going to have to change something here. We're going to have to change what we used to be, because polite conservatism is now a losing proposition. And so you have all of these old school conservatives like the Jonah Goldbergs. Many of them became never Trumpers, right? And a lot of them were just neocons who are upset about Trump's foreign policy. But many of the evangelical conservatives who can't stand the fact that Donald Trump was on the cover of Playboy, and they don't like his sleeping with a porn star and his mostly secular lifestyle, they can't stand that about Donald Trump. A lot of them had to make amends with the fact that they need somebody who can actually win an election in the modern era, because in some ways, whether you or I or whoever listening to this likes it or not, in some ways Donald Trump really does represent the United States to a large
Oh
degree.
yeah.
Like that bold, brash businessman, entrepreneur, you're fired, right? That kind of, like, there's a Donald Trump in every community. When you could probably think, I don't know how long you've lived in the city that you've lived in, but you can probably think about somebody locally that that reminds you of Donald Trump, right? A kind of an overbearing, bossy, tell everybody, how it's going to be type of person. I mean, I know exactly who I'm thinking of when I think about my community. For some people, it's people in our family. But I mean, there is, I think people probably felt comfortable enough with Donald Trump because he does represent something that is uniquely American, for better or for worse. Am I right?
Yeah, and you know what, Austin, I'd even venture to say that we all have a little bit of Donald Trump in each and every one of us if we just tap into it a bit more, especially if you work in politics. But no, yeah, I absolutely understand what you mean. There was definitely a shift, a consciousness shift, even in 2016. At least in 2016, that's when I became more aware of politics. First, because I could vote finally, but also second, I was in college. This was when this was all happening. But from my and I thought it was only happening because I was just starting to be active and aware in politics. But from everyone I talked to, it seems like this has just been a shift at all in United States politics, and a big change within the GOP. So Donald Trump did make a lot of changes, positive changes, I think. But I'm starting to see now that there is a general trend, and this. I don't know, maybe I noticed this after he came out with the green card uh college degree policy position a few weeks ago. But I've seen people get really upset at him. And now they're upset at him and his pro-Israel stance. And, I'm seeing a lot more people be a little bit more, have a little bit more vexation with Trump. Maybe it's just a demographic that I see on Twitter in my feed, but I don't know. I don't know if you've been noticing that pattern now. There's or yeah, also ever since his stance on abortion as of a few months ago, a more hands-off stance as well. I've seen more of his base get upset with him. So I don't know. I still think because of Biden and Biden's performance, Trump has a really good chance of winning. But it's like, but that's like running against a child at this point. It's a pretty easy race. But I don't know if his base is necessarily like happy with him anymore.
Yeah, no, I've noticed that as well. Daniela, one last thing, and I'm sorry I didn't prepare you to talk about this topic, but I think you'll probably be able to roll the punches here. Is the question of, I see you posting on your timeline a lot about Jordan Peterson lately and his daughter, Michaela
Yes.
Peterson, and there really has been a very strong repudiation of Jordan Peterson because of his back and forth with the Groypers online. I don't know if you've noticed some of the videos that we've been seeing lately online with Candace Owens engaging in a bit of Holocaust denial. What's been your take on the situation as we've seen major conservative figures like Jordan Peterson and Ben Shapiro and others going to war with the Groypers, and Candace Owens sort of throwing in with the National Socialist, if you will. Big picture.
Yeah, well, I do want to first state and preempt this and say that to people, the Groyper movement, Nick Fuentes' followers, they're a very loud base of people. I don't think they're the majority of the conservative movement in the United States. They're just a very loud minority. So when you go online and you see all these comments, these people kind of act like a hive mind in my experience. All I had to do was post about Nick Fuentes and I'll have like 30 comments within 10 minutes, which is a lot for me. So, these people just pick up on anything you mention about Nick Fuentes. So I think what happened with Jordan Peterson is that he called him a rat, and that would just cause a major flame war, because these people are young and passionate men, and they're going to really be at the forefront of this online culture war than Jordan Peterson's average follower. But I don't think this is reflective of the entire conservative movement. It's a loud minority. However, it is growing. And I think also what we're seeing with, especially with the younger kids now, and you always see this, is that big con like Charlie Kirk, Jordan Peterson, Ben Shapiro, all these big figures that were popular as of like 2015, 2016, they became, I think, too big a little bit for their britches, I guess. I use it. English is not my first language, everyone. They got too big for their britches, and I think what is occurring is that we are seeing kind of a negative response to that again. It's become more institutionalized, and what's cool and what's always been cool is an anti-establishment or an anti-institutional message, right? And I think Nick Fuentes is really tapping into that, and he's really good at what he does with that. People like Candace, I have a few of my own opinions on Candace Owens. I think I don't want to say like too many negative things. I think she's a little bit of a grifter. She has a bit of a history with that. She used to be a leftist. That's what everyone says, right? But I think there's some truth to it. And I think she's also she has a keen eye for these things, and she sees where the trend's heading. And so she's really tapping into that. And yeah, she's becoming really popular with the Grapers, interestingly enough. It will be interesting to see what. Oh, and her getting also fired from Daily Wire, I think, gave her a lot of brownie points with those people. So it'll be interesting to see where that goes with Candace. I just think she in particular knows what she's doing, despite being a big con figure.
Do you think there's a future for people who are re-examining whether or not Hitler was actually a bad guy in no uncertain terms?
I don't, that's a really good question. I don't
mean, where
know.
do you go from that? Because it's kind of like,
yeah,
you can, if you're a grifter and you're always looking for the next trend, it would seem to me that Holocaust denial, maybe Hitler wasn't such a bad guy after all, that would kind of be like the final form of the grift, right? You better get like as much money as you can, get the lottery winnings and then invest it in some nice mutual funds, because there's nowhere to go after that.
Yeah, it's like, what's worse than Hitler? Like, what's the next step, right? I don't think it has so much to do with Hitler as much as it does with the conversation of free speech. I think that they're tapping into a deeper issue here, even, and that is what we can or cannot talk about, right? And I think this idea of like forbidden knowledge or things you can't talk about in America, that's what's appealing to these young men, and young women. This movement in general is that, like, I don't think it's so much Hitler specifically, although they will throw that meme out around a lot, and some of them are so invested in it they actually end up liking Hitler. Like, that's what you get with literal children. But I think once they grow up, I really think maturity is a big factor in here. What a lot of people don't seem to consider is that this is primarily a very young movement. And I think
I wonder if you agree with my brother who said this on the show, that as soon as Nick Fuentes loses his virginity, his movement is over.
Yeah, I think so. I don't think that's going to happen for a while. At least he won't lose his virginity to a woman, in my opinion, frankly. But unless he already has to a guy, I don't know. I think I'm just going to say, Austin, I think he's gay. I'm sorry. I don't
Are
think
you just saying that because you don't like him, or do you really think that?
I legit think.
Why do you think? Okay, so why would, when you say something like that, you need to back it up a little bit. Why would you say something like that?
I have not evidence per se, but I have reason for I have justification for why I believe this. If you look at Nick Fuentes' history, okay. First of all, in the beginning of his movement, in the beginning stages, I don't know if he says this anymore, but he used to say sleeping with woman is gay. He used to very much discourage that.
Which is funny.
It's a joke, right?
Right, obviously.
He has been found on 2 accounts now, and they're claiming that it's not true. It's happened twice now where there's been transgender pornography or transsexual pornography on his devices.
I was
Okay.
told that the Jews planted that there.
That they said that the second time.
Okay.
Okay. The first time it was just a tab that happened to be open. He was doing it for research. The second time it was the Jews. And then also, and this is a more serious case, but he did have his reaction to a pedophile that was in his movement. I don't know if you remember this, Austin, but a year ago I actually talked about this on your show. There was a known figure in his movement called Ali Alexander. He
Yes.
was a known he would prey on teenage boys in the movement, and he was outed. And Nick Fuentes' response to that, I don't think was indicative of how a heterosexual male would respond to that. He was very apologetic of Ali Alexander's behaviors. He even victim blamed the original young man who came out with the story. And I think if he was straight, he would respond with more vitriol to that behavior, and he didn't. He was very apologetic of Ali Alexander. That's not evidence, but I think that's, again, reason to believe. It's my personal opinion. I think he's a homosexual. That's just my opinion. A lot of people are going to say otherwise. But listen, this is a guy with a lot of social power. He has, even though his movement is primarily guys, he still has females in the movement. He can have access to a lot of girls. He doesn't have a girlfriend. You can say he's very busy. He's invested in the movement. He doesn't have time for a girl. That's fine. But like, he's what, 25, 26 now? And he hasn't had a single girlfriend.
Well, I mean,
or he hasn't talked about it.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, I'm kind of I'm not a real scholar, but like I'm like an amateur scholar of Hitler, and Hitler was frequently asked the same question when he was on his campaign trail, because he never had a girlfriend, and they were always wondering. He would always answer with like, Germany is my girlfriend. And until finally, I think that he got a beard with Eva Braun there at the end. But there is that chance that he is focused on building the Fourth Reich here in the United States, and he's just too busy.
I'm sorry. I don't think a straight guy. I don't know if a straight guy. I think it's very rare that a straight male would put off not having a female companion for that long, especially with as much social clout like Nick Fuentes. I don't know. Do you watch his mannerisms? Did you see the pictures of him sitting next to? Oh my gosh.
Yeah. It was like this.
Right. You know what I'm saying? Like, and my gaydar is broken. Like, I am not good at finding out who's gay or who isn't but this one, I don't know. I have strong vibes. I could be wrong. My gaydar could just be broken though. We'll see.
Okay, Daniela, this is a great conversation. Love having you on here Thursdays at 8:30 a.m. Central Time. It's 2 hours earlier where you are, so it's a big sacrifice. We appreciate that you get up so early, and you look gorgeous, and we appreciate that too. So thank you for joining us. Is there anything else you want to share with our listeners, or maybe plug before we let you go?
I'm always going to plug my Twitter, Austin. You know that. Get me up to 5,000 followers now, everyone. It's at Pensac Daniela, at my last name, first name, at Twitter. And that's what I'm going to plug. I also have a Substack if anyone's interested in that, if they like reading long, lengthy articles on female agency and higher education and all that. But it's called I renamed it. It's called the Dialectic Project. It's on Substack, or you can just look up my name, Daniela Pensac, on Substack there as well. So
I read them. They're very interesting, but I admit I have to sometimes go to the dictionary to be able to understand the words. They're so huge. Thank you, Daniela. It's an acquired taste. Yes.
Thank you so much.
I like it. I appreciate it. That's why we have you on here as a regular guest. Have a good one. We'll see you next week.
See you next week, Austin.
Thank you very much. Let's give her a round of applause. Daniela Pensac. Very lovely. Do you like the Wake Up America show? Would you like to see more of us? It's us. It's really about the community. There's 1,300 people watching us live over on Rumble. I'd love to hang out with you guys on a more regular basis, because I know that like 1,000 of you, it's the first time that you've ever seen the Wake Up America show, and you have no idea what we're all about. Well, we're all about great conversations and great fun like that. It's a 2-hour show, and it's Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. So put us on your calendar. Come back and join us on regular. We call Thursdays Thirsty Thursdays because we have the lovely Daniela and Camelia. And then Fridays is even more fun. That's when like I get the whole Peterson gang together, and it's me It's my smoking hot redheaded libertarian wife, Steffi, who is in the final weeks of pregnancy. It's going to be awesome. Going to be a dad soon. And my brother, Justin Peterson, who usually streams in live from Boston, but I think he's on the road right now. So we'll catch him on the road tomorrow. Going to be a great show. Freedom Family Friday tomorrow morning. Make sure you come back and join us then. And of course, when you exit the show today, you've got to click the like button and follow the channel before you leave so you can find us tomorrow, because you might go tomorrow and be like, well, what was the name of that show and who was that guy, and I want to tune it again, but I forgot. I'm AP for Liberty. That's my screen name, my handle here on Rumble. So if you're looking for me again, that's what you would type in to find the channel. But here's the thing, it's just a lot easier if you just click the follow button, right? Click the follow button on the channel. Find us again here tomorrow morning. We're always a lot of fun. You're going to be informed. You're going to laugh. You're going to cry. It's going to be a great time. So make us regular destination listening and watching the Wake Up America show. And when you exit the show, exit through the Grift Shop. Yes, you thought I wasn't going to remember. The Wake Up America show is funded in part by listeners and viewers like you. The Merch Shop of Dreams, an epic freedom bazaar of patriotic merch where eagles dare. ForLibertyShop.com. That was supposed to be an eagle cry, but my voice broke. We've got awesome new Trump 2024 phone cases where he is portrayed as the shark from Jaws, exclusively sold at ForLibertyShop.com. Our hottest sellers this week: Thomas's Painkiller Coffee, Franklin's Electric Elixir, Jeffersonian Java, Thug Life mugs, Revolutionary Roast, Patriotic Shoes. You can't find this stuff anywhere else. Do you know why I know that? Because I design it along with my wife, Stephanie. We design these products ourselves. Yeah. So check them out at ForLibertyShop.com, and we'll see you guys here tomorrow on the Wake Up America show at WakeUpAmericaShow.com. Bye, guys. Have a great day. See you tomorrow.
Expanse of time, a year might seem like a mere moment, but oh, what a year it's been. In September 2022, Austin and Stephanie Peterson embarked on a journey to wake up America. They began humbly, with just 20 souls tuning in, learning, listening, and though challenges arose, like the looming shadow of YouTube demonetization, their spirit never waned. And now, thanks to you, thousands rise with the sun to join them, to listen, to engage, to be a part of a community. So here's to you, and to Wake Up America, for memories shared, for friends made, for the journey ahead, and for never, ever forgetting to rise and freedom. Happy anniversary.
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message. Believe me, Austin Peterson is the best. He's got the greatest Wake Up America show I've ever seen. Whenever I tune in the mornings and watch the live stream, let me tell you, he has got the absolute best content. I love his guests. It's just a total blast to watch, and I highly endorse and recommend the Wake Up America show. It's terrific, believe me.
Is the outdoor your home about as exciting as a library? Then spice it up and unbore your space with our custom metal signs. Crafted with love and a bit of libertarian magic, you can customize your own metal sign at ap4libertyshop.com. So head to ap4libertyshop.com, customize your own metal sign today.
Welcome to a world of vocal discovery at Peterson Voice Studio. I'm Justin Peterson, here to guide your musical journey. Envision a place where your voice reaches new heights, where every note tells a story. We embrace all singers, from the enthusiastic shower vocalists to aspiring stars, ensuring each voice finds its unique rhythm and tone. Are you ready to elevate your voice? Visit PetersonVoiceStudio.com and sign up for remote lessons tailored just for you. Let's begin this melodious journey together.
Tired of spending your hard-earned money on woke corporations that don't share your pro-freedom values? Fed up with sipping liberal lattes and progressive cappuccinos? Introducing Founding Flavors from AP for Liberty Shop. Get your day started with Washington's Revolutionary Roast. As robust and principled as the man himself, this blend is the shot of energy heard round the world. Or maybe you want to taste the fervor of freedom with Adams's Patriotic Perk. It's as dynamic and balanced as the U.S. Constitution, sure to awaken your spirit of liberty. For the aficionados, we've got the Jeffersonian Java, a complex mix of flavors that speaks volumes about your refined tastes. And don't forget Betsy's Liberty Lullaby, our decaf option, crafted with the same care and dedication Betsy Ross put into our Star-Spangled Banner. This blend lets you enjoy the taste of freedom anytime without losing sleep. No woke beans here, folks. Just pure, patriotic, pro-freedom flavors brewed with love for liberty. So why compromise your principles for a cup of coffee? Stand up for your values, perk up your patriotism, and start your day the American way. Get your Founding Flavors at apforlibertyshop.com.